coaches that are doing what you want to do. So really look into the background of coaches and, when they turn to you all at Curbside, I know you all do a great job of helping your clients, not just providing them with software, but also coaching them to be better service providers, to be more profitable. And part of the reason that you all can do that is because you are doing it. You do have a laundromat. You are doing pickup and delivery in your own market. Same thing with us. We don't coach things that we don't actually do.
I'd like to introduce Dave, the Laundromat Millionaire, and Carla. You guys are probably the most recognizable coaches in the industry with over 100,000 followers across your different platforms. You guys have released books. You guys have hosted the Millionaire Conference, Facebook groups. You've done workshops at your laundromats. Started a LaundroBoost, which is a marketing company focused specifically on laundromats, which is sorely needed. And you guys really helped a lot of people grow their businesses. I know a lot of people may already know how you got into the laundry business, but they may not be as familiar with the timeline. In 1 year, you guys purchased 2 laundromats. Within 5 years, you had 4. And that says a lot right there. So if you could kind of talk about that journey. And when somebody has 4 laundromats, it's no longer their personal hobby. This is a business. So again, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us, Matt. We're excited to be on here with you. So as far as our journey, I would say the easiest thing to say is that we're crazy, apparently. But I think one of the things that I think makes us relatable to so many people in the industry is that we did not start out with a lot of money. We started out as a middle-class family, both working full-time. I was a teacher. He was a lineman for our local telephone company. I had a few kids, and we didn't have much money. We had, $30,000 saved, but we wanted to start this side business. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And then those first 3.5, 4 years was really us doing it on the side. And by on the side, I mean we still worked our full-time jobs. And in the evening, I was a single parent and he was a laundromateur or whatever you want to call it. He was a workaholic. I mean, and I think people can relate to that because few people come from a lot of money where they just have this big boat of cash they can invest into a business, but you have this dream. And I think that's really the key to our story, is it started with a dream and not much money and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, what I'll add to that, Matt, is, when you ask the granular of how we got into business, the truth is leverage. I mean, it's debt. Carla and I are lovers of debt, her less than me. She's very risk averse. I'm relatively risk averse, but she thinks I'm risk crazy when it comes to relativity to her. But the truth is there was no other option. And so when you have no other option, just like most things in life, and you have goals and ambitions and dreams, you do what you have to do. Now, we didn't know it would turn into what it is today. We didn't know it would turn into 1/10 of what it has today. But how we've traveled through our journey was the first 4 years, as she mentioned, we had four stores in 5 years. I left my job, my full-time job, when we acquired our 3rd store, about 2 weeks before we closed on it. So we had 2 stores. We ran them for about 3.5, 4 years, basically semi-passive, meaning I had a full-time job. I'm hanging off telephone poles, 50 feet in the air, and she's teaching, kids middle school math over in Kentucky, and we did what we had to do and made a lot of sacrifices with our family, and frankly took on, a decent amount of risk with the leverage and the debt. The good news is that we learned very quickly that focusing on servitude and truly solving problems in our community and finding those laws of supply and demand and where they're kind of off kilter, so to speak, and there's an opportunity to make a difference in the world. And that was kind of when we fell in love with the industry. Before that, it was just like a business, a job, a way to make some money. And we truly fell into the business when we realized the impact that laundromats have in the community. Fast forward from there, like you said, both in our 5 years in the business, I had left my full-time job. We had acquired store number 4. But the truth is we still had a lot of debt. We still had a lot of leverage. In fact, at year 5, we might have had more than we did in year 1 because we had 4 stores and we had acquired a bunch of zombie mats and retooled them and put all new equipment in them and things like that. And we had a nice little cash flowing business, but we still had a lot of debt. And I looked at the business after year 5 and I was like, okay, at that point I'm in my late 30s, I guess. And I looked at it and said, okay, hopefully, I have another 40, 50 years on this earth. Is this what I'm going to keep doing? Am I going to go to 40 and 50 and 60 laundromats and have this capital intensive business where I keep, borrowing money? I would have done that if I had to as a growth trajectory, but I went to the Clean Show in 2015. And you guys were there, and a couple other software providers were there that were just launching your software. Or actually, I think that was 17. 2015, I went, and there were some people talking just around. I don't even think there was any booths. There were just people talking, over lunch and things like that. And pickup and delivery was kind of becoming the hot thing. And I looked at it through the perspective of, I already own these 4 laundromats. We already own roughly 250 washers and dryers, across these 4 stores. How can I generate more revenue and equally more profit without borrowing more money, without this, this capital intensive business, without continuing to borrow and invest in CapEx? How can I make more money out of the 4 facilities I already have? And we had become fully attended. We had raised prices. We had done a lot of leverage things to increase the profitability of the business. But the next logical step was pickup and delivery. And we started pickup and delivery in 2015, and we never looked back from there. So that's an insurance, kind of the short-term version of our story. I know we're going to get a lot more into pickup and delivery probably.
That's really fascinating. A lot of times when there is that leverage or there's that, it's like, we need to make this work. There's no, we're going all the way through. It's like in Gattaca, like, what was your secret? It's because I wasn't saving energy for the way back. I was just saving, you guys going all out, moving forward. That's also where a lot of creativity is created, because you got that mindset of like innovating and create, and you guys are just like us. We're trailblazers. Don't forget to click like and subscribe so you can find out how industry trendsetters are just crushing it with the Curbside Laundry's wash and fold and pickup and delivery platform. The pathway today, I think, is a lot easier because people have trailblazed. We've probably done a lot of crazy things that other people didn't have to spend energy, time, or money doing, because somebody could just point them in the right direction. Like you guys with your coaching have really helped a lot of people save a lot of headaches, just by that guidance. But, from the outside in, risk is a funny thing, because from outside it may just seem crazy. It's like, what did you guys do? You borrowed a lot of money, you built these nice places, but a lot of times the person in their mindset, it's not as risky as it seems because they have a vision, they have a plan. So I was just wondering, in your mind, was this a crazy risk or was this a calculated risk?
Well, I suspect we're going to have 2 different answers there, but I'll start first. In fact, I know we will. In my mind, to put things in perspective, the first store we bought was a rundown zombie mat. It was literally losing money when we acquired it, but it was in a good location. It was a mile and a half from our house, and it was in a community that I'd grown up in for the last 25, 30 years. The only thing I knew about this opportunity was I did the laws of supply and demand thing. So I visited, it was like, we're in the suburbs of Cincinnati, so it's not a densely populated area. And I went and visited all the laundromats within a roughly 20-mile radius. There was like roughly 9 of them. All of them were in worse shape than the one we were buying, or most of them were in worse shape than what we were buying. And so I just looked at it and said, well, people need laundromats, right? I mean, I could have been wrong about that, but I was like, people need to do laundry at laundromats. And I thought, okay, this place is every bit as bad as any other one out there, but none of them are what we now refer to today as a modernized laundromat. None of them were nice, right? And I knew my personality. I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I work really hard at what I do to be the best. And I said, man, if I acquire the store, I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to make it into something nicer. Now I'm going to have to borrow the money and different things like that. But that was how we got started in the journey. So from my perspective, to answer your question, I didn't see a lot of risk in that, mainly because we kept our full-time jobs. See, about 3 or 4 years before we bought our first store, we made a conscious decision to start saving and living below our means financially to buy a business. That's where the $30,000 came from. We actually saved that up over 3 or 4 years. It didn't just get handed to us from grandma, right? So that was where the seed money came from. And we had already been living below our means and squirreling away some money for 3 or 4 years. So when we bought the first store, I thought, well, even if it's losing $1,000 a month, I mean, we can cash flow that, right? So in my mind, there wasn't a lot of risk associated with like losing everything. We both had our jobs. Our jobs were very secure. We were both pretty good at our jobs. So I was in a union, so I mean, I didn't have a lot of risk. I've been there for 15 years at that point. And she was a really good teacher. We had security in ways that I don't think a lot of people would have saw it. And even if the business continued to do the same thing it was doing when we bought it, we'd be okay financially. To me, that just didn't feel like much risk. Yeah, we had this little $70,000 note from the SBA, which at that time, $70,000 was a ton of money to us, right? But even with that, we could cash flow that note and the losses in the business. And it was run so poorly by this guy that lived like an hour away that I just knew within weeks I could improve it. I didn't know it would become what it is today, but I knew I could improve the business. So in my mind, was I going to work hard to make sure I take care of my family and don't lose everything? Yes, but I just did not see it as a big risk situation for me and for our family. Now I'll let Carla answer because I think she has a very different perspective.
So I am the risk adverse one. So definitely initially it seemed like a crazy risk to me when he first took me to that first zombie mat, and it was scary looking, and there was a homeless man was the attendant that lived behind the dryers. Yeah, I was like, there's no way we're doing this. I don't even want to be in here. Can we leave? In the beginning, I wasn't as involved in the business either. I did the accounting, I did the bookkeeping, I made sure, money coming in, money going out, all looked good. But he had really proven to me that this was a viable business through the first 2 locations. And so I've become more comfortable as the business has been proven to me. And then too, honestly, as I've gotten more involved in the business, I've fallen in love with it too. I mean, I'm still the one that's always watching the numbers and making sure that we are staying profitable. But I love that we serve our community. I love what we do for our community. And I also love what we do for our community for the many people we employ in jobs that they can love and that they're treated with respect. So I have fallen in love with the business and I've gotten more comfortable with the risk, but I'm always keeping an eye on it too.
Yeah, I mean, you guys obviously make a great team because you got innovation and then you've got checks and balances, which is important.
He's the dreamer and I'm the fun killer is what we gotta say.
The yin yang, very similar stories. Like I, was purchasing foreclosed fourplexes, and they were not in the best shape. I mean, one of the ceilings was collapsing. It looked like a bubble after it rained. And, my wife was like, what are you doing? It didn't really have the curb appeal, just like a zombie mat doesn't have the curb appeal. But, to me, I saw opportunity because the rent was so low and I knew I could fix it up and get more rent. So it just seemed like very logical, basic arithmetic. But from the outside, it's like Matt's buying some building that you'd be scared to, like, wasn't in the best neighborhood either. But those were the ones that cash flowed, and I wanted property that cash flowed. You guys have done a lot in the industry, I'd say. But one question I've got is, what excites you the most about this industry?
Well, I kind of mentioned, honestly, for me, it's so much the community service and that we're providing a safe place, an enjoyable place, as far as people can be comfortable and get their laundry done. And then also a great place that employs a lot of people now. I mean, we're at about 40 employees now in our community where we're providing jobs that are well paying and people are treated well. So that's honestly the biggest thing for me. There's not many businesses out there where you can not only be profitable and provide a great way of life for your family, but also provide a community service.
Yeah, I agree with both of those, and the third one I'll add on there is just opportunity. I mean, when I got in the business in 2010, I didn't realize the opportunity out there, but within probably 12 to 18 months, I started to talk to people across the country, CLA forums and things like that, and I realized, wow, like we really are not good at what we do as an industry. And to me, that just screams opportunity, right? So there's the local Queen City Laundry. We run a chain of laundromats. We built an amazing team providing jobs. All of that is very important to us and always will be. But as you know, 5 or 6 years ago, we launched Laundromat Millionaire. We saw a very similar opportunity and trajectory nationally, right? We don't have this desire to build a franchise. We never have. Everybody tells us we should. We have no desire to do that, right? We also have no desire to own laundromats in Texas and California and whatever, right? Some people do, that's fine, go raise private equity, whatever. That's just not our thing. But what we saw that we believed we could and now have proven that we can impact is the national community. And that's where that tagline of like elevating the industry comes from. And it started out with just me and you jumping on a call for no other reason than I posted on CLA and you had a question and I had a free hour. As Carla mentioned, that turned into other businesses, right? It turned into the Laundromat Millionaire platform and the podcast and the advertising that goes with that and the books, writing an international publishing deal, signing an international publishing deal and coaching and workshops and speaking at conferences. And what I tell all of my clients, whether they're someone that watches the podcast or someone that I work one-on-one with is, hopefully when you reach whatever your pinnacle of success is, we'll still be friends once of all, so you can never have too many good people in your life, in my opinion. And I always say too, me and Carla will look back on that, your life, your ambition, your career trajectory and how you impacted your local community. And while we don't own equity in your business, we'll always feel like we were a little part of your success, right? And so it's now taken on a multi-pronged approach of the local community. We have an amazing team that, as we talk about all the time, we spend no more than a couple hours a week in our local businesses. Our team, it truly is passive for us for the most part, even though we really hate that term. But nationally, we're able to help people with laundromats and then pick up and delivery and even driving, creating industry PR and driving people to the industry by speaking on podcasts that are outside of the industry and being featured by Business Insider and places that never even talk about laundromats. And we're helping attract people to the industry that honestly are going to operate at a different level than maybe the laundromat owners of 50 years ago are going to. So I see all of those things as opportunity to improve the globe, quite frankly, because we have an international following. I mean, I'm coaching someone right now in Singapore. And so we never dreamed a million years this would happen, but I mean, I coach people in 8 different countries. And at first I was like, I don't know if I can help you in Singapore, but I'll try. And if I can't, then I'll give you your money back type of thing. And then it became like, wow, I really am able to help you. And this was a good value proposition for you. So for me, it's all about the opportunity of how to make a difference in the world from a global perspective. And that's pretty different than when we bought our first janky laundromat.
Yeah. I mean, the evolution is incredible.
Yeah.
And you're right, the industry is growing a lot. I mean, because there's other podcasters who are just kind of doing just like stuff just for the camera, right? But it is growing the industry. It's getting people interested. And I think that's the knock on, quote, passive income, is because it might be attracting the wrong people into the industry.
Yeah.
Maybe they think, oh, we're going to get more zombie mats. And so what's great about your coaching is you guys are teaching people how to make more money by providing a great service to the community. It goes hand in hand, not just, it's more symbiotic, not these eyesores. So I think that's really powerful. And you also talked about just putting in a few number of hours at the laundromat. One of our speakers at the Curbside Conference, Cami, Laundromat Girl, so she's on Instagram and TikTok, really, big following. She is going to be talking about just how she built the business specifically to, in a way, kind of limit the number of hours. So she owns the business doesn't own her, in a sense. And that was all, in a sense, like intentional by design. And you guys, if you're running 4 laundromats, that really says something. Being able to run a business that, in a way, doesn't need you, which is hard to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. And I will say that it is becoming easier because of technology. Technology is a huge piece of that, and good software providers and all the different payment systems and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of ours has just started out with great team building. And Dave has done a great job of really coaching our leadership team to take over, honestly, his position. What he did in the beginning, he now has coached up people who started as attendants and have worked their way up through our company and become amazing leaders.
Yeah, these are people that, started out making, $2 an hour above minimum wage, 10, 12 years ago, and they've worked themselves up to making 6 times more annually than they've ever made in their life. And they've, not to be cliche, but I mean, they've truly become a part of our family. These are people that I always joke every day, like, I don't think I could ever sell my business. That'll be my kids' problem, right? Because like spending time with these people is important to me. I enjoy it. They're high character, high integrity. They also have bought into the mission of Queen City Laundry. Quite frankly, they bought into the vision of Laundromat Millionaire, because our leadership team is a big part of our workshops. It's not just me and Carla. They're in there teaching how to fold laundry and package laundry and how logistics and delegation. I mean, they're actually part. I'm standing back in the background, and they are teaching their skill set, their lane, so to speak. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's a big part of what we do, and we're excited to see where we can go. I mean, I talked earlier about 10 years ago being in my late 30s. Well, now I'm in my late 40s, and God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll be around for a couple more decades. So let's see what else we can do together through collaboration, through things like this.
As far as legacy, the stuff we're going to be most proud of is helping other people.
Sure.
And you guys have done just phenomenal on that. I was just talking to we've got a mutual client, Craig, and Michelle over at Monster Laundry. And they're also speaking at the Curbside Conference. They've done just such a phenomenal job on branding. I mean, and that's what's really cool is like you see, it used to just be, okay, here's a picture of washing machine and put the logo right next to it, and it's generic clip art, and that's the brand. And it didn't mean anything. It just meant, I guess, laundry. And so now you've got a lot more creativity and meaning behind the brand. And we're going to be talking a lot about our keynote speaker is a branding expert. He's professor at USC and UCLA's business school, and the guy's genius. And his talk is about having your brand carry you to the summit. So I think Craig and Michelle are excellent examples of that. They did a full retool, and they're looking to make more money. And where's a great opportunity? Pick up and delivery, because it could use their existing, capital and all their machines, and it's a natural brand extension. Since I talked to them, their revenue went quite a bit up, and I kind of commented on that. Hey, since we talked, and they go, well, we were also talking to Dave and Carla, and it all goes hand in hand. I mean, it's really nice. Not one coach could do it all, and it's really great that there's a great team, great support where these people, you could help people grow. Also, you guys have helped Dan Mellendy. I know he went to one of your workshops We helped him get ranked #1 in Austin. So his I think he has 4 laundromats, or just keep on growing. But he spoke so highly of your workshop, and I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what kind of information you guys provide there.
Yeah, before we get into that, I really want to say that on the coaching side, I think the most important thing for people to think about out there is to look for coaches that are doing what you want to do. So really look into the background of coaches, and when they turn to you all at Curbside, I know you all do a great job of helping your clients, not just providing them with software, but also coaching them to be better service providers, to be more profitable. And part of the reason that you all can do that is because you are doing it. You do have a laundromat. You are doing pickup and delivery in your own market. Same thing with us. We don't coach things that we don't actually do. So definitely for those of you out there looking for a coach, look for things like that. Look into your coach's background and say, are they at where I want to be? Because if they're not doing it, they probably can't help me do it. Getting into our workshop, the best thing I can tell you is it's different from all the other things we've seen out in the industry. All the other conferences, there are great conferences, and I highly recommend going to conferences, the networking. A lot of times, honestly, we would learn more by connecting with other people at the conferences than even some of the guest speakers at them. A lot of the content we found was very high level. It maybe was great when you were first getting in the industry, but then it kind of became same old, not really getting into the numbers, into the nitty gritty of everything. And I think that's something that I've really seen you all are trying to do differently, is you're really trying to get into the details of what people really need and putting people up on stage that are doing it. They're not just, pontificating of this is how you should do it, but this is how we do it and how we've been successful doing it. And that's kind of where our workshop came to be, is we wanted to provide people with something really what they needed, like getting into the numbers, getting into the processes, the procedures, the SOPs. It's not a conference. That's why we call it a workshop, is it's really a hands-on training. Some of the people who have gone to our workshop say that it's basically saved them from going down the hole of revenue share and franchises and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of our point, is we don't need those things to help us do it. There's no reason we need to share our profits or pay franchising fees, because this industry, pickup and delivery, you are perfectly capable of doing everything you need on your own. And that's really what our workshops teach. It teaches you how we do it. It doesn't just teach you and tell you, but it trains you on how to do it with our entire team.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, Matt, when we went to these conferences, as she mentioned early on in our journey, we would get some value. And then as we went to more and more conferences, it's kind of the different person, same 2-3 cents worth. And then you learn that there's guardrails around these, and the speakers can't talk about this and you can't talk about that. And it's like, oh, well, no wonder nobody's going into details. And so finally, me and Carla were like, okay, well, we can't change the industry from that perspective, but as an independent platform that answers to no one but God, we can do whatever we want to do, right? And a lot of people think we're crazy, but what our entire business model, or our workshop is built around, is our business model. Right? So you spend roughly 28 hours over a 2-day period of time. I mean, the first day is literally 8 a.m. to midnight, right? I mean, we're talking a really long day. It includes all your meals and everything. And we're literally giving you everything, including the kitchen sink. There is no aspect of our business that we hold back from. You can take videos, you can take pictures. We provide a 150-page workbook. I mean, what we're trying to do, and we tell people at the very beginning, we're not saying that the way we do things is the only way to be successful, right? But what you paid for isn't a marketing thing, right? We do spend a few hours on marketing, teaching you customer acquisition and things like that, but it's not a marketing workshop, it's an operations workshop. We're teaching you we put it into silos, and we tell people, we're teaching you how to launch, scale, and optimize your business. So the launch phase is pretty self-explanatory. The scale phase is typically where most people crash and burn and either sell their vans or retreat back to the launch phase and don't really ever grow. And the optimize phase is kind of the holy grail, right? The end of the rainbow, the pot of gold, where you just always are trying to tweak your business. And obviously that's where you guys are. And what we're doing, we're sharing our journey of how we did it, and we're pulling the entire curtain back. There is no Wizard of Oz. We're showing you every aspect of the business. No holds barred. You can ask us any questions that you want. But what we tell people in the beginning of the journey, or the beginning of the workshop, is you can take 10% of what we teach you, 20%, 90%. You can apply 50% that you learned at this conference or this workshop. But what we can tell you is if you mimic 100% of what we do in every market in the country, this works. Why can we say that so confidently? Well, one-on-one coaching, we've coached over 300 people over the last 6 years. And through our workshops, we've coached about 120 over 11 workshops now. And so we can look back at 3-5 years ago and see people like Craig and Michelle and say, hey, they did the right thing, they did the work, they paid attention, they went back and implemented, they executed, they took advantage of their coaching calls. And are they where they want to be in 2 or 3 years? No. But are they well on their way and way ahead of where we were at 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. And that's when you know you have something that is unique in providing value to the industry. So the truth is, most people aren't willing to share their entire business model with anyone that'll attend a workshop. We totally get that. And the truth is, like, our first couple workshops were a little rougher than our last couple workshops, right? Because we knew the business model, but teaching it was new to us, right? We had taught it through Zoom, one-on-one, but what we hadn't done is had them behind the curtains poking holes in everything we tell them and saying, well, what about this, or what about this? Well, you said that in the conference center, but then I get here and I look at this and I see this. And you have to answer for every little nuance and detail. There is nowhere to hide. And so now we've done 12 workshops, and man, I tell you what, it'll make your operations 1,000 times better to put on your own workshops.
Oh yeah, that handbook that's over 150 pages started at under 120.
Yep. So we just keep adding to it.
Yeah.
And that's really where the art form comes in from, because when you mentioned nuance, and it'd be great if there's just like a 10-page playbook, right? Like just follow these 10 pages. But there is a lot of nuance. Like if somebody's in a rural area, if somebody has a lot of competition, if pickup and delivery is a thing or not a thing, if there's commercial opportunities. I mean, there's so many different ways. There's some one-trick wonders out there, and that trick might work or that technique might work in that one setting or for these people. But what about for these people? So that's where I think that the coaching with a hands-on experience who could apply their knowledge to the unique client, their unique situation, I think makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And just, I know you guys, coach, a lot of people new to the business, but also, just even from conversations, somebody I've got a lot of respect for, Kent Wells. He's been doing pickup and delivery for a long time. He just had a random conversation with you, and you said, you know what? You have a lot of different SKUs, a lot of different pricing, and you helped him simplify things, and it helped his operation so much. So that little nudge just made a world of difference to, a multi-million-dollar operation. People may have sticker shock when they see a price of a workshop or this or that, but it's like, what are you paying for? And you get what you pay for. As far as like pricing and stuff like that, the stuff is expensive, and your guys' opportunity cost, because you guys are successful, is also very high. So I was just wondering, as far as, coaching and the workshops and, kind of doing that careful balance of making it accessible and also helping provide information.
That's actually something that we spend a lot of time on, is trying to help everyone no matter where they're at in their journey. Because like I said, we started out with, middle class to full-time working careers and not a lot of money. So we try to help people at any pay level. So we have a lot of free content out there. We have a podcast where we put a lot of like nitty gritty information even on our podcasts. We have a lot of free resources on our website. We have a community where we have, for those people who can't afford maybe the one-on-one coaching, our community offers a monthly coaching call. It's a group coaching call. And it also offers Dave AI, which is a trained chatbot that we trained. Dave trained specifically. It has all of our information in it as far as our handbooks from our podcasts. It's all loaded into this chatbot, so you can get coaching. Honestly, it's pretty impressive, but that's only like $40 a month. So we try to put things out there that are at various price points, because we realize not everybody can afford, that hands-on workshop. Even the workshop, we do sell the handbook that goes along with the workshop at a lower price point. And it does come with a coupon for the workshop in case you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to invest a little more. But we really try to give content, put content out there that's at whatever level you can afford. But obviously some things have to be more expensive because they do take up a lot of our time, our team's time. For our workshops, we even shut down our stores to self-service because we use them as a training ground. So there's a lot of costs that go into that.
Yeah, what I would tell you, Matt, is roughly 300 clients that I've coached one-on-one, aside from the workshops and things like that over the last 6 years, I estimate that about 50% of them are newbies. So they're either looking to, buy a zombie mat and fix it up. They're looking to buy a turnkey store and operate it in their own way, or they're looking to build a laundromat. And that's what I spend about half of my coaching time doing, is with newbies. And having been a newbie in many different realms and done a lot of those things myself, and now helped hundreds of other clients do that, I'm able to help them in just about every way. But a lot of times one level leads to another level, and a lot of my coaching clients, about 50% of them renew. So they'll sign up for a 6 or a 12-month program, and then they'll move forward and say, oh, I need another 6 months, I need another 12 months. And then the other 50% that I work with is people like me and you. A lot of them are a lot more successful than I am, to be honest with you. A lot of times in other industries, sometimes in this industry. And they're like, hey, I already have 50 laundromats. I know how to run a laundromat, but we're doing pickup and delivery, and I don't know anything about that, right? So they're entering a new segment. I work with some organizations that are, literally trying to build $1 billion enterprise, right? And I'm a board advisor, and I'm a strategic advisor in that way. So there's a lot of different levels to what we do. But ultimately, if you look at the Laundromat Millionaire platform, what we're trying to do is bring value at every level of the process. So whether you're the newbie with no money, okay, well, coaching isn't going to be where you're going to start, right? You're going to have to start similar to what we started, and we try to provide free resources, as she talked about, things like that. But we're ultimately all about, when you talk about Kent Wales and even Craig and Michelle and different people like that, Dan, the truth is that these are all people that are just rock stars in their own ways. There's just certain aspects of the industry or information they don't have yet. All of those people are crazy smart individuals, and whatever they decide to do in life, they will be successful. That's my golden goose. That's the people I get really passionate about. Like when I give my life, every hour of my life, I'm never going to get back. Even if you pay me for it, I'm never going to get it back. So when I give you an hour of my life, or you buy an hour of my life, I don't just want to make a few $100s, right? That's not my goal. My goal is to change your community, right? And those are the kind of people that I want to work with. Some people like Kent, who, Kent, he's just a crazy smart guy and very hardworking and very successful and a high character, high integrity, all of these things. Those people like Kent all just do backflips to try to help. But the truth is, it's just me and Carla. We have a small organization, a small team over here, and we're trying to grow it, but we can't help thousands of people one-on-one. We just don't have the infrastructure for that. So we have to be a little bit picky as to who we're going to help. And those newbies, those rock stars that are coming into the industry, want to do some big things and really change communities, and those veterans like Ken, that, he's never paid me a dime. We just showed up at a conference, and I think we were sitting next to each other, and a speaker finished, and he just started picking my brain, and I just, hey, if I can help this guy, I'll help this guy. And here we are, 7 years later, and Kent and Monica are good friends of ours. We've hung out outside the industry. Really good people. So that's the cool thing about the industry, is we can serve our community, we can help each other get to a different level, and we can build and maintain friendships along the way too.
And one thing I just love is you could just see there's a humbleness and respect for others that both of you have. And I think and you always talk about learning from others as well. And I think we're in a unique position where we're talking to hundreds of laundry owners across the country, or your case internationally. And we might be able to provide a whole bunch of, because we're doing this all the time, we're helping all these different people. We've got a pretty complete, package, but there's always new information. We're constantly learning. We're still that sponge of gathering new information, learning new trends. And by having, respect for your clients and the people you're working for, recognizing that, hey, I'm just helping them get to the next level. I think that mindset also helps you continue to grow and learn from different people, because, in a way, it's like a collective, where we're all in it together, and that I just feel really honored to be in this. You guys are in a similar spot where we're kind of in a way, like a center node where we're talking to a lot of different people. And while we're helping others, we might gain that one new thing. They might have learned 50 things from us, but that one new thing is whoa, that's a really great idea. What different things would you say you've learned from different clients?
Oh, I know we learn things every time. I know he learns them from coaching clients all the time. Every time we have a workshop, we always pick up nuggets from other people, just ideas that they have. I know one of our workshops, we were doing our delivery logistics and talking about how we set up our vans and all that kind of stuff to make it as efficient as possible for our drivers and all that. And one of the people that came was from North Carolina, and they're like, I've worked in construction, and actually blacktop, I think, was his thing. And he was talking about this would be even better if all the shelves folded, and if the hanging rail, you could remove it with this and this. And we're like, that's awesome. And that's our new truck design now for everything inside, so even just little tweaks and things they'll ask us about. And we're like, I hadn't thought about that, but I like that. We're going to start doing that.
Yeah, I'll take two angles for it. One, I tell myself and I tell my clients when they sign up with us, I tell them every coaching call, which is an hour long, my goal is to learn one thing from you. And my goal is to give you more value than you paid for that call. right? I want you to win, but I also want to win a little bit too. And then I always say at the end of any coaching session or program that we do, hopefully I've built a new friend, right? I always tell them when they stop paying me, when I stop providing them value, they should stop paying me. But hopefully we built a relationship so we can still be friends. Because, me and Carla have a philosophy of you can't have too many good people in your lives, right? So as long as they're good people, we want them in our lives. As far as the workshops, it's a little bit different nuance because our workshops are capped at 20 people. So they're small and very intensive. And like I said, we literally spend 8 a.m. to midnight together on the first day and 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. the second day. And when you spend that much time with a small group of people, one, they're all going to leave with unique friendships and relationships and things like that. But like I told you earlier, they're gonna pick up, if they're smart, they're gonna pick apart your business model and say, hey, I didn't just come here to just do what Dave and Carla tell me to. Like, I'm here to challenge you. And why do you do what you do, right? So I tell them all, you be that 3-year-old that just asks why exhaustingly. And if at any point you reach a point where I can't answer your question as if you're 3 years old, then I have failed you in this workshop. Well, you may not pick up one thing, but once again, when you have, by the way, when you charge what we charge for the workshops, you don't just attract anyone to the workshop. You attract people that are about to do some stuff. I mean, smart people, very successful in other industries more often than not. A lot of times a lot wealthier than us. Like I said, this is just a new industry. They're deploying capital in a new way, and they want to accelerate that process. And smart people can pick apart processes that are not well thought out or well designed very quickly. And so every workshop we do, we have a after action report with my leadership team, and I'd sit down and talk to Carla, and she takes notes during the workshop of things we can do. And I think we're probably maxed out about now, but the first 10 or so workshops, I think we changed 5-6% of how we taught or what we taught or when we taught, or very few things about the process did we change, but it was just tweaking them in different orders and spending more time on this and less time on this because we were challenged. You didn't give us enough information on this.
The workshop definitely got hugely impacted by the people.
Yeah.
But even our own operations, there's been little tweaks that we've found here and there. Like, they might ask a question about, well, what do you do if your driver gets in an accident? Like, well, they need to, well, you know what? We're going to add that to their manual, like forms that they fill out. I mean, just even little tweaks because they're really in our business. So the workshop itself is constantly getting better as they ask questions and things we realize, oh, we need to provide that. We should, expand upon this or change the order of this. But even our own facilities and our own processes have been improved by their questions as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. And, when you're in a leadership position like you guys are, it really imposes upon you to really bring your A game, which you probably would have done anyways, but you just get better and better. And, we also at Curbside Laundries, we offer our new curbside clients, or any curbside client, visit super sites to see, behind the scenes.
Nice.
And one of the guys was operations. That's what he did at his full-time job, was operations. And he said, I noticed your driver was waiting in line while we had a line at our wash and fold counter, and the driver needed to weigh the incoming laundry. And he was just kind of looking at that from an operations point of view, like that's not efficient. So, the price of one scale, so we're, in our software, you can have multiple scales plugged in. So we got a separate scale by the driver's entrance. And now things just flow so much better. He helped us in a lot of different ways. So you're right. A lot of these people that come by, they are A game. They're coming from different industries and they've got contributions. It's really neat being able to incorporate different ideas from all these different people. And something just going back to really commend you guys on is how long, this is very telling, how long a lot of your attendants and team members and managers have been with you. That says a lot about the operation you're running. And what would you say is the key to having that good morale where people want to stay?
A lot of it is having the right people, keeping the people with the right passions, that their passion is helping the community and helping even their coworkers. You got to have people with the right heart. And then Dave does a really good job of really coaching them up as leaders as far as being a positive leader for them and addressing, your other managers' concerns properly, empowering them, giving them a lot of power to have control over their own decision making and over their facility and things like that.
Man, I tell you what, there's a lot that goes into that, but it really starts with the person. Kind of like I talked about with Kent and Craig and Michelle, and at the end of the day, I can't control who you are as a human being. We have a culture that Queen City Laundry represents And that's who me and Carla are, and our faith and the things that are important to us and our non-negotiables. From a very early on, I tried really hard to just, whenever I would interview people or train people or whatever, and I used to do all this myself, just sharing very clearly who I am, what I stand for, and what my non-negotiables are. And the truth is, usually what that does, because not everybody fits in that box, right? Usually what that drives is drives away the people that are contrary to those things and that don't agree with you and think you're crazy or you're this or you're that. And it magnifies and attracts people to you that you have these things in common with, that their heart bleeds in a similar way to you. And I always say, I'm not trying to run people off. I'm just trying to create a very specific culture that you either probably fit into and love and are magnetized to or not. And the people that we want to stick around are the people that want to stick around. They're the people that are 45 years old and had 3 different careers in their life, right? And they tell you, working at this silly laundromat is the best job I've ever had. Now I don't want to go on without talking about compensation, because we're all very naive if we think they're going to work for free. I don't work for free, and they're not going to either, right? So I think all those things are really important. But I think also she talked about, I used to spend more time than I do now coaching up people. Where do you want to go in life? What do you want to do in life? Maybe there's a place for you to do that here. And as we grow and elevate, we're always needing to elevate the next person into the next position. But even if it's outside of this organization, what can we do in the 2 years that you work here to help you gain the skills that will help you obtain that next job, even if you're only here for 2 years? We try not to hire people that don't want to be there for at least 1 to 2 years, because it's not really worth our time. But if you want to be here for 15 years, like our GM, hey, that's great too. She's been there almost every step of the way. And then the last thing I talked about is compensation. We try to compensate relatively $2 to $3 an hour above the market. So if you talk about minimum wage and what type of a person you're going to attract for minimum wage, we don't want those people working here, right? We want that tier 2 labor pool. And $2, $3, $4, $5 an hour above minimum wage usually attracts a different labor pool, so to speak. We do the same thing at our management level and our general manager and assistant general manager level. And then the last thing is incentivizing them. They don't have equity. They don't get profit sharing per se. But man, if I could put not that we have a receptionist, but if I could put a receptionist on commission, I would, right? If I could give them an incentive structure that motivates the things that I want them to do, I would do that. And it started with my GM, and then it took on a whole life of its own with our processing team. And your labor rate goes down as they make more money, and how does that even work? It's a mathematical equation, and that's some of the things we'll talk about in the speech at the conference and things like that too. But paying people not only what they're worth, but motivating them, incentivizing them to do the things you want them to do. If I have an attendant, our minimum wage, and I know you're in California, so you're going to freak out on this, but our minimum wage in Ohio is $11 an hour, okay? If we're paying an attendant $14 an hour, but then they make another $1.50 to $2 an hour in commissions by selling rug cleaning services or upgrading pet deodorizer in the rug. And I mean, we make them almost like little sales agents, right? Somebody comes up to the counter and they're asking for change, and we have a set of vinyl laundry bags sitting on the counter that we sell for $12. Well, if the attendant sells one of those, they get a $1 spiff, right? Whoever sells the most of them at the end of a 2-week pay period actually doubles all their spiffs. So if they sold 40 of them in the 2-week pay period and they sold more than anyone else in the organization, they don't get $1 per bag, they get $2 per bag. And that could easily amount to another $1 or $2 an hour. And then we also incentivize our management and our leadership team. They get a percentage of every dollar or every penny of revenue that comes through our organization. So as our store gets busier and things get more stressful on them, and they have to solve more problems and more people call off sick and more people break, the last thing they do is retreat and say, man, Dave, I wish you'd quit growing this company, right? They don't ever say that, even though the stress grows with it. Why? Because every year they make more money than they made last year. And we always call it a form of profit sharing, but it's really
revenue sharing.
It's really a form of revenue sharing, because it really doesn't have anything to do with the profit. So creating a structure that incentivizes people to do what you want them to do, and the true rock stars get rewarded financially, is something that's very important. We all know that if we pay the same person $2 more an hour, it doesn't necessarily get better results out of them. But if you hire the right person and you motivate them to do the things you want them to do, then they feel like they're a part of the team and they kind of take ownership in the organization. And my point in all that rambling is that feeds back into the culture, right? It feeds back into the culture of them feeling like being a part of Queen City Laundry, and we're making a difference in this world.
Such great stuff, and I'm excited you're going to be talking about pricing for profits at the Curbside Conference, because pricing for profits is really 2-part. One is what the price the customer sees, but then also your internal customers, which are your team members. How are they incentivized? And incentive structures are by nature very difficult because you got to be careful what you're incentivizing, because that can lead to unintended consequences. Like maybe they're just grabbing the easy sheets, or the towels, and the new person has to do all the baby clothes. That's great that you're going to be sharing that information as well. I want to talk about your LaundroBoost. So you guys started a marketing company specific for laundromats. Why do laundromats and the laundry service need specialty marketing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to this, so I'll try to keep it rather succinct, Matt. But we had used 6 different marketing companies before we launched LaundroBoost. Some of them were outside the industry, very general, large marketing companies. Some of them were outside the industry and smaller niche, but they weren't niche on our industry. They focused in whatever, but they said, we can help you with laundromats too. And then a few of them were even laundromat specific. And the truth is we got varied levels of success with all of them, but none of them could we really justify the return on ad spend, right? None of them really paid for themselves plus grew our business. That's just the truth. And so we got really frustrated because I believed then and I believe now what a lot of laundromat owners don't believe, which is digital marketing is incredibly powerful and is very important to growing a business, small or big. And so we just saw a vacuum. And just like any entrepreneurs, we had this platform, we had this audience that we follow and watch. And I was trying, like everything we do at Laundromat Millionaire, we're trying to solve it for ourselves first, right? If the industry has the solution, why would I go create software? There's a bunch of you that do a great job at this, right? But the truth is, not too many people were doing a very good job, and I couldn't find anyone that was really focused on only laundromats that could grow my business. And so I went outside the industry looking for this, and you've probably met Brett Lyon, our business partner. He's the CEO at LaundroBoost. He's a rock star when it comes to digital marketing. He's a retired professional hockey player, but he's been in the digital marketing business for about 10 years. And he had been working just one-on-one with a small team with a few laundromats in the industry, and a few of them were friends of mine, and they were like, yeah, this guy's like really good. I don't know where he came from, but he's really good. Nobody knew who he was. And he joined my Facebook group. And a lot of these people join my Facebook group and they start spamming everybody, and I'm like, nope, block them and put them out.
I've had that.
Yeah, and I joke with him all the time. I'm like, man, you did the right thing, because like when you joined, you're about 2 seconds away from getting blocked. But what he did is he joined the Facebook group, and he never self-promoted. He just tried to help people. He just started answering. When people would post about marketing or whatever, he'd be like, oh, you could try this, you could try that. Have you ever thought about this? And he never mentioned, hey, I can help you with this. But he had helped, I don't know, a couple dozen, I think, laundromat owners and some other things. And the truth is, I reached out to him one day proactively, and I was like, hey, I noticed you've been helping people in my group. I just want to say I appreciate that. Thanks for not spamming people, or I would have booted you. And we had this whole little conversation. I said, you seem really sharp and seem like a really high integrity guy. I said, I'd like to start having you do some stuff for us. How do you feel about that? And he said, yeah, I'll do that. And I said, I tell you what, we'll be a regular client like everybody else, but if you are able to help us and grow our business, then we'll start referring other people to you. We don't need any kickbacks or anything like that. Let's just see if we can help some people, right? Which is all what the platform's about. And the truth is, he was able to help us a lot in a very short period of time, and it became very obvious that he was at a whole different level, despite really not knowing the laundry industry too well. And so I just had the idea one day. I said, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the laundromat industry, and I have a huge network of people, that we talk every day, and I speak at conferences, and I have this podcast and all these things. I said, what if we partner together and we build a team? We'll invest, you invest, we'll invest our time and our resources. We will coach you. I will coach you on a daily basis and teach you about the industry and all the nuances and the things that haven't worked and why I think they haven't worked, but you're the expert, and you can A/B test, and any new products we roll out, you can A/B test on Queen City Laundry first. And rather than wasting other people's money, you'll waste our money, right? But it'll be an investment back into the business. And then you'll be the CEO. We'll build a team around you, which he had a small team. And I believe we can really make a difference here. What do you think? And he just jumped at it. He jumped at it, thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I think that was, 3.5 years ago, roughly now, something like that. And we service over 400 locations across the country now and are a multi-million-dollar marketing agency. So the truth is, I give Brett most of the credit, but I think what works is, one, he's an insanely hard worker, as most former professional athletes are. He's also a quick learner. He's very sharp. He's very curious and very passionate about the changes that happen in digital marketing, and that world changes every day, so you really got to stay on top of that. But he's also really good at finding talent. I'm not really sure where that came from. It might just be a natural thing, but he's really good at finding good people. So, we have a team of about 10 now, where 3 years ago the company didn't exist, basically. And every one of them are just absolute rock stars, and they work with the synergy with each other. And they all came to our worked at our booth at the Clean Show and trying to get involved in the industry. And they go to conferences and just listen to the speakers, trying to learn. So our entire team is bought in and invested into the industry and becoming laundry experts themselves. And so they go to the same conferences and same workshops and things like that. Brett attends every workshop we do. And he's a speaker for an hour and a half, but the rest of the time he's sitting there taking notes. I think he's been to 7 or 8 of them now. Just trying to think like a laundromat owner through the lens of being a digital marketing expert. So we were trying to bring something that we didn't believe existed in the industry. And the truth is we've come a long ways in 3 years, but we think we have a long ways to go. Recently we created a whole new AI department. As you know, AI is the hot everything. And that's just taken off like a rocket ship. So we're pretty excited about that too.
That's exciting, and it's sorely needed in our industry because we have special, I guess, needs in a sense. I've seen so many marketing companies not really understand the laundry business because we deliver, especially on pickup and delivery. It's a totally different thing than when it's simply bricks and mortar. And so to have somebody who's able to give special attention to our industry and kind of know who is using this type of service, who's most likely to convert, who's most likely to become that repeat customer. And I know it does take time. You got to stick with it, and that's part of the problem as well. Somebody might stick with it with a company that doesn't ever come through, and then it's like, well, I just spent and wasted a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But so I think there's tremendous value of going with somebody, a company that specializes in this industry that's got a really good reputation, because it's not, there's kind of like a fallacy that the first time somebody goes to your website that they're going to go ahead and place an order. And it'd be great if that was true.
Yes, it would.
But many times it takes multiple visits before they actually make that purchase. And, even with the websites, we make the websites for different laundromats, helped a lot of people rank at the very top of Google. And it doesn't rank at the top on day one. It doesn't work like that. And so sometimes people go with the wrong company and they're kind of waiting around, and then it's like they just waited for nothing. I think it's a great service you guys are providing, and you're right about the athletes. When I see my daughter's in tennis, varsity in high school, and when you see the focus that these student athletes have, I could just imagine professionals. So that it sounds like you've got a great team.
Yeah, we really do, and it's all really a tribute to Brett. Like I said, the main thing for us was we recognize his expertise. And we just wanted to coach and nurture that and say, hey, these are all the things that a digital marketing wizard that it doesn't own laundromats don't understand. We're going to spend exhaustively making sure that not only you, but the entire team understands these nuances, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not something that happens quickly. We pour into it. I mean, we have a meeting almost every week with him. He's WhatsApping me and texting me daily. We're talking 2 or 3 times a week, a lot of weeks. And he's like, hey, we're running this problem. We think it could be this or this. What do you think? And he's asking for my perspective as a veteran laundromat owner. But a lot of people are doing their own marketing, and okay, there's a little bit of a place for that, I suppose. But the truth is, there's a lot more nuance to it than people think. I see competitors and even clients that aren't working with LaundroBoost and stuff like that, and they're running their own ads because Gemini, AI, and all this different stuff, right? It does it better than you, supposedly, according to Google. And I'm like, yeah, I look at your ads and you're running one ad that promotes ABC Laundromat, and it says we do self-serve pickup and delivery and drop-off laundry at these 3 locations. And I'm like, you will never, you couldn't even quantify your return on investment with an ad so general like that, going to your landing page, by the way, right? I mean, there's nuance in building a website, there's nuance in SEO, there's nuance in different ads and different calls to actions for different things, there's nuance in nurturing campaigns once they click the first time. There's a high likelihood they're not going to convert. So are you gathering their data? Are you creating lookalike audiences and trying to find people like them, right? These are all the things that our team does every single day. And the truth is, it's not rocket science. It just takes a lot of time. And unless you're doing this full time, if you're a full-time digital marketing person, then you could probably figure a lot of these things out. But I don't know a single laundromat owner that full-time does digital marketing. And that's what we were trying to fit this hole of 10 years ago, we probably didn't have the knowledge of the industry to be able to help Brett at the level we do now. And then, of course, the last thing is, you mentioned it, but I mean, the Laundromat Millionaire platform has grown, and we got a lot of eyeballs now. Brett could have built his own thing and paid me for coaching and, paid for advertising and got access to the eyeballs, or we said, how about we just create a company and be business partners? And I didn't know what I know today, but man, if I could partner with 3 other former professional athletes, I would. I didn't realize what a skill set that is. He's not just good at hockey. Anything that guy touches, he's going to be good at. He's just wired differently.
And
Anyway,
they say almost every female CEO played some high school
I
sports.
believe that. Yeah, I believe that. And I'd never thought of that before, so it's just interesting.
We've been kind of bumping into each other and talking for, like over a decade now. One thing I find interesting is in the early days is the CLA message board. And, that message board was the community. Today, the community is on Facebook. And that message board was great, but is also heavily censored. And I think that censorship, you kind of touch upon that at different conferences. Sometimes the different speakers, it could be political, where we're 100% focused on content, providing hands-on, tangible steps to success for, the attendees, because, we value their time. They're making a special effort to make it out. So now the communities, moved to Facebook, a lot of it, but it's also expanded quite a bit more. And I was just curious where you see the industry education moving towards, like what are the new trends there?
Well, I can say what I hope the trend is. I hope the trend that we see is that we see more people in the industry willing to help others, more people willing to share openly their own business models, their own data, because the truth of it is most of us aren't competing with each other. I mean, we're competing with the other people in the Cincinnati market, I guess, but even that, if they're on the other side of town, maybe not even then. So there's no reason we can't help people from all over the country, all over the world. So I want to see more and more people sharing. I'd like to see in conferences, I'd love to see more of these independent conferences like Curbside is doing, where really you're focused on, I like that you're focused a little more niche, where you're really just focused on pickup and delivery. So people can really zoom in, and this is the conference for me and what I'm interested in. I'm not going to sit through 8 sessions on how to get started in the laundromat industry that I don't need, but it's really targeted to where I am at in my journey. And I love that when we talk to you about, what we were going to talk about, you were very open to what do we think people need to hear? What is the information that would help people the most? You had no guidelines, no parameters for us. No, you can't talk about that, or you can't mention them or anything like that. You're just like, how can we help people? What do people need to hear? And I want to see more of that. More people putting on conferences that really get into the meat and potatoes of a specific topic that is really helpful to people, and less of just the high level getting into the industry, same-o, same-o.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that because that's pretty much mine too. Carla hit the nail on the head. I talked about it earlier, but people, I don't know if we're born this way, I don't know what it is, but people, just speak out about laundromat owners. I think we generally we just tend to have a scarcity mindset, or we have an abundance mindset. I don't know why that is. I mean, I've seen some people try to change and they just keep defaulting back to how they're wired, I guess. I don't know, but I hope that what we do and what people like you do, I hope that it continues to snowball, right? I hope that the scarcity mindset people, I mean, they're going to be the haters, they're going to this and that, you're a terrible interviewer and you're fat and all, they're going to say all these horrible, horrible things, and you just kind of let it roll, and it's just like, whatever, I don't understand why you're that way. But there's the other half, let's say, of the industry that are the abundance mindset, and I hope that more and more people see that they can make a difference. And you don't have to build a whole platform and write a book and launch a podcast. You can just answer a question on a Facebook page. That's how this all started for me. I suspect it's how it's all started for you guys. I don't know that for sure, but just jump into any Facebook group. There's 50 of them out there, mine or anybody else's, and just try to help people. When I attend conferences, yes, I'm there to learn, but me and Carla go to every conference and say, our goal for this day-and-a-half conference is to give. Hopefully we'll walk away and hop on that plane and we'll have something that we take back that makes our business better. But we genuinely walk into every one of them with just a heart of giving. And I think Carla's kind of saying the same thing, but I hope that more people try to do that. And I know, we hate the haters and we hate the negative that's out there, and you have to have a little bit of thick skin in that way. But if you have the time and the energy and the resources and you want to launch a full-blown podcast, hey, it will grow if you provide value, right? But if you hold back and you're selfish, you're trying to make money without giving away your 5 best secrets, right? Then that thing will crash and burn. That's just how this works. But if you just go into every day with the heart of a giver and the heart of someone that wants to help elevate the industry, I mean, you guys are an example of that, we're an example of that, and there's dozens of other coming out of the woodwork every day. So my hope is that we just have more of that. I don't know what new technology with AI or whatever will give us new opportunities, but I hope we keep seeing more podcasts and more content and more information like that. because I think us laundromat owners are fully capable. There was a day 15 years ago where all of the information, all of the knowledge, if you want to call it that, in the industry was all gated. It was all gated by the manufacturers, the distributors, and the CLA. Plain and simple, end of story. Not saying they were doing anything wrong. They were trying. I genuinely believe most of them were trying to help us. But the truth is, 99.9% of those people don't run laundromats. And the 1% that do run laundromats, it's not their primary thing, right? They own a laundromat, but they also sell equipment full time. Well, what do you think they're better at? Selling equipment they spend 40 hours a week doing, or running a little self-serve laundromat that's 1,000 square feet that they spend 3 hours a week on, right? So I hope the experts continue to elevate, and I think we can help them by, what we try to do, and I know what you try to do, is find the next up and coming rock stars and give them a voice. Put them on your podcast, put them on your conference. Craig and Michelle are a perfect example of that. And maybe they'll never have their own podcast, maybe they will. But my hope is that we all kind of just continue to pay it forward. And I know like Craig and Michelle and people like them, even Kent, who's been in the industry before us and stuff like that, a big part of the reason that they give is because other people have given. And I believe our laundromat community, I'm not trying to push out the manufacturers, the distributors, the CLA, but us laundromat owners, we're enough. Our community, we can support and provide all the knowledge and education that's needed for each other if we want to. And the internet's a pretty powerful thing. So we don't need anybody's permission, right? It's the old adage of if you're not invited to the table with the big boys, build your own table. Well, that's what I did. That's what you did. And I'm hoping other people will do more of that.
Yeah, I love that. We have distributors who've reached out to us and said, hey, we're really good at building these beautiful stores and we're really good on the self-service side. Mm-hmm. And we even have a team to repair the machines, but what we're not as good at, because they're not laundromat owners, as you're saying, is the marketing afterwards and where you're helping out with LaundroBoost, and they're not as good at the wash and fold or the pickup and delivery, which a lot of the new owners, new people getting into the business they have the mindset, I want to do pickup and delivery. And so they've teamed up with us and said, hey, you got to talk to these people. And I love what you're talking about as far as sharing information and having that mindset. And something to keep in mind for everybody is information is perishable. What is cutting edge today is going to be common knowledge tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so when you have information, you could either help somebody out or you could just hunker down and keep it to yourself. If everybody's doing that, that's not really helping people out. And so I really am a big believer on that. When I started doing the webinars on how to get into pickup and delivery, I had some people call me and say, hey, stop telling everybody about this. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, it's a big world out there. There's And something we're doing at the conference to help promote communication as well is on everybody's name tags or the badges. It'll have the city name and the state as well. So, it just gives that people the extra comfort that, maybe, just a reassurance. We're having people come out from the entire country. It helps reinforce if they're in Louisiana and they're in Los Angeles, they could be free with sharing information without any worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Carla talked about it on a self-serve basis. If you're more than 5 or 10 miles away from me, you're not a competitor. Pick up a delivery, if you're more than about 30 minutes away, you're not a competitor. So even Cincinnati, which is a relatively small market, 2 million people, you could be an hour away on the west side of the city or on the east side of the city. You're not coming over to Amelia, Ohio to pick up laundry, and I'm not going over to the west side to pick up laundry, right? That's just not going to happen. And I always say, even when we're in the same market together, people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I mean, our competitors don't want anything to do with us. They know who we are, and they're kind of terrified of us. But if they were willing to have lunch, I would 100% have lunch with them.
Well, we've had a competitor even come to one of our workshops at one time. And yes, we're giving them our secret sauce or all of our SOPs, but out-implement us then. Mm-hmm. If you can beat us, even using our own techniques, then we need to step up our game. Yep. It's just the competitive nature.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I just want to thank you again for being on the podcast, and then also speaking at the Curbside Conference. I think the attendees are going to get so much out of that. It's going to be a great crowd. That's another thing the vendors were talking about at the previous show. I got a whole reel where every single vendor, unprompted, they all said, I've never seen such a sophisticated crowd. Mm-hmm. So the networking opportunity is going to be fantastic, and I'm glad you guys could be a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate the invitation, Matt. Keep doing what you're doing, and anything we can do to help, we want to be a part of it. You guys are rock stars, and as we know, there's dozens of other ones out there in the industry. This whole, I use this software, I use this brand equipment, I use this distributor, so we have to be enemies. I think it's all a bunch of hogwash, personally. We're all better together. We're all laundromat owners, and we can all help each other a lot more than we think we can.